Jennifer Lopez and Shakira brought their simmering moves and some powerful socio-political statements to the Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show on February 2nd, 2020. The crowd loved it.
Their performance was really disappointing for me. I found it to be totally vulgar and incredibly trashy and not family-friendly at all.
Oy. I know this is a couple days late, but yeah. How about that Super Bowl halftime show? I guess the NFL and Pepsi got what they wanted. They got the people to talk about it and debate about it all over social media, because after all, controversy does create cash. On one end, you have those saying,
"It was for Miami vibe and Latin pride. It was a display of women empowerment and how beautiful you can be if you're still in your 40s and 50s and still stay in shape."
But then you get the other side. J-Lo wearing a maxi pad and doing pole dancing is good for Vegas, but not the Super Bowl. Funny thing is, it was a lot of women who were complaining about the halftime show being too provocative. A lot of people whined about and said, oh, it was just a bunch of hip shaking and crotch grabbing. Shakira and J-Lo have been around for years. Have people forgotten what their music videos and live performances consist of? You're going to complain about the hip shaking and crotch grabbing of Shakira, but oh no, you're not going to complain about when all the girls are fawning over Adam Levine without a shirt. Me, I just hated the halftime show this year because I'm just sick of halftime shows being some stupid pop artist.
Okay, I know at least what the Super Bowl is. It's the most anticipated football game of the season. And with so much testosterone and high energy going around, why is the halftime show always some pussy pop group? Get Metallica in there or something. It doesn't make any sense.
I can respect Shakira and J-Lo as good performers, but I've never been a fan of their music, or their brand, or them. The same applies to a lot of the pop acts that have been featured over the years. I wasn't a fan of the set list being a bunch of 20-second snippets of their popular songs, one after the other, plus a bunch of other craps and some other songs being slipped in, like when they played A Bar from Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. There's good medleys, and then there's whatever the hell was being done in the halftime show. As much as I hate it, I get why the NFL does it. It's purely for ratings. It's an effort to attract as many viewers as possible, especially those who don't care about the game itself. But hey, you got the commercials. Hey, let's get drunk and, oh man, I gotta have all those nachos. The artists who get featured love doing it because even if they don't get compensated money-wise, they still get the exposure, and there's a huge spike in number of streams and searches on Spotify and YouTube. The halftime show wasn't always a big deal. For many years up until the late 1980s, it was usually a local marching band, and there'd be a famous performer on occasion, but nowhere near as big as they'd get later on. And I don't even know how many of them were actually shown live, as they often waited until after the game was over to play the halftime show as a TV special. Then in 1992, you had a salute to the 1992 Winter Olympics, and it showcased past Olympic stars, plus having Gloria Estefan singing, a push in getting who was big at the time to perform. At the same time, Fox aired a special live episode of In Living Color as a deliberate attempt to sway viewers from watching the game. And thanks to the halftime show being so bad, it actually succeeded in getting 22 million viewers to catch the special during halftime and keep watching In Living Color instead of catch the rest of the game. So then after that, they decided to make the halftime show more elaborate and feature big-name performers doing big concerts. Hence, this is why 1993 saw Michael Jackson do the halftime show, because it was ultimately one of the most watched television events in history, so the concept stuck, and it's been like that ever since. Now that hasn't stopped other networks from still attempting more counter-programming. Obviously, in an attempt to sway viewers or attract those who really don't care about the halftime show or the Super Bowl itself. In the 90s, MTV would often air new episodes of Beavis and Butthead and Celebrity Deathmatch. The WWE on 3 separate occasions have tried it, most famously in 1999 with the special halftime heat empty arena match between The Rock and Mankind. I actually watched that match when it was broadcast. You've also had lingerie bowl pay-per-views, plus other bowls involving pets and a bunch of other networks doing certain other specials. Honestly, I wish more networks would step up to the plate and offer something different during the halftime show. Because again, there are many of those who are sick of the halftime show being the same crappy pop artists. I loved being able to stream the NXT Halftime Heat 6-man tag match on my phone so I didn't have to sit through Maroon 5. Going over the performances over the years, there are some decent performances, and of course other controversies that brought attention. 2001's theme was the Kings of Rock and Pop, and it had NSYNC and Aerosmith. Okay, not bad for a little variety. 2002 had U2 doing a tribute to those who died in 9/11, and it was a very heartfelt and fitting performance. Skipping ahead to 2004, MTV produced this one, and the theme was Choose or Lose, pretty much the campaign to get young adults to register Democrat. But that wasn't the worst part. It had a medley of performances by Jessica Simpson, Janet Jackson, Nelly, P. Diddy, and Kid Rock, but that isn't what people remembered. It was the duet between Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake at the finale. I remember being at my brother's house watching it as it happened, and as soon as the nip slip happened, I remember everyone in the living room going, "What? What the hell? What the?" This was right when DVRs were the hottest thing, so those who had one easily could go back and make it one of the most paused moments in live television history. It's all he said, she said at this point, and it was 20 years ago, but people still remember it. So for the next few years, to play it safe and put out the fires, the halftime show was mainly classic rock artists. Paul McCartney, Rolling Stones, Prince, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, and The Who to close out the decade. Interestingly enough, there was a little controversy over Prince silhouetting himself and making his guitar neck look a little phallic, but it was quickly dismissed, probably because Prince's performance was freaking awesome. The mentioned artists post-Nipplegate, pre-2011, I felt fit the Super Bowl fine. They were well known enough and playing the type of energetic music that should be associated with a testosterone-filled football game. But in 2011, they decided to go back with the pop artists, and ever since then, it's been the same overdrawn, overproduced, choreographed mess of a show. It's so overblown that you can easily tell the freaking crowd is choreographed. Yes, because we need the Black Eyed Peas and Fergie rapping about her underwear. Let's have Madonna with a bunch of guests, including the masters of crappy songs themselves, LMFAO. We have Beyonce with a Destiny's Child reunion and singing Bootylicious on national TV in front of a bunch of kids. And then Bruno Mars featuring the Chili Peppers, which admittedly wasn't terrible. Then you had a stunning performance by the Left Shark featuring Katy Perry and Missy Elliott. Then we get to Super Bowl 50, being held in Santa Clara. I was among the many fans who signed the online petitions to get the NFL to ask Metallica to play it. After all, they're popular enough. Again, their music is always played at sports games, and they could play just their 5 greatest benign hits, and it would have been in their hometown territory. It would have been the perfect time for them to do it. Instead, we had Coldplay. I see both sides of why Metallica should and shouldn't do the halftime show, and even the members themselves weren't all that bugged about it. But fucking Coldplay? Oh, and that wasn't what got everyone's attention. Besides Coldplay's critically panned performance, it had the surprise appearances by Bruno Mars and Beyonce, whom we had just seen do their own halftime show performances a few years ago. Oh, but that wasn't the worst part. You had Beyonce performing Formation, an alleged anti-police song, and got her share of controversy. Yes, sing an anti-police song after cops give you special escort all over the Bay Area to get to Levi's Stadium. And definitely dress up like Black Panthers and make a subtle nod to Black Lives Matter. Because the fucking Super Bowl halftime show is where you should make jabs and get people talking about police brutality and other political controversies. Look, I don't deny that some cops are thugs with badges, but there's a time and place to address it. And the Super Bowl halftime show, a telecast that's meant to be an escape from reality and family-friendly for a few hours, is not one of them. Oh, and I know Metallica will probably never play the halftime show, and again, I get why people say they never should, but you would not have had this crap happen if they played. Instead of going for the safe and marketable approach, they ended up with the complete opposite and got everyone riled up. Thank goodness Lady Gaga the next year just did a really, really good performance without a bunch of guests sharing the spotlight or a bunch of political messages. Sure, the song Born This Way may be considered an LGBTQ anthem, but it's also just a good, energetic song in general and open-ended enough to mean anything. The political undertones were not even close to compare the shit show from the previous year. But since 2018, it's been the same headlining artists featuring a bunch of guests. And of course, their critical responses have always been mixed. I don't think Maroon 5, Travis Scott, and Big Boy suck because of their choice to perform the show despite others refusing out of support for Colin Kaepernick and him being ousted by the NFL. I just think they suck in general. Bite me. As a metalhead, even if the stuff they play for the Super Bowl halftime show isn't my type of music, I think the shows are always going to be better when it's just one artist performing and showcasing what they can do. Having a bunch of guests and trying to fit a bunch of songs into a 10-15 minute performance just oversaturates it and makes it into a big mess. What would you rather have? A medley of 5 to 6 songs where they're probably about 2 minutes each, or 15 songs where you hear maybe 10 to 20 seconds at the most each song? When it's just one artist, they actually have a bigger chance of winning me over in the short amount of time they're on stage. And in the case of Lady Gaga, she actually did win me over. But that's just one diamond in the rough. The rest of these performances post 2011 have been nothing but the same, and remind me why I am sick of it being a pop artist or a bunch of them every halftime show. If you have been listening to me and stayed with me to the end of this video, I ask to tell me your opinions and tell me why you either agree, disagree, or who would you like to see perform at the next halftime show.